Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the show, BytesTV. This week's episode, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things around SharePoint, storage market, really disaster recovery and business continuity. Really going to be at the heart of the episode. It's going to be a two-part series. We're going to work it all the way from the data center all the way up to the server and applications, the clouds, all the networking in between. We're going to cover everything, for business continuity and disaster recovery over the next two episodes. But before I get started, I want to introduce my esteemed panel. I have Robert Suber, who's a managing director of a reputable firm here in New Jersey. And basically I have Eric Ruiz, who's an infrastructure architect working for a reputable firm also out in New Jersey. By the way, New Jersey sucks, guys. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. That would start a lot of stuff right now. People would be really pissed. No, but
New Jersey, how dare you insult my whatever it is.
Your presence is an insult.
So getting back to the show, we like to joke around, everybody in the audience that watches the show, where we know each other as long as we've been in the field, and we've seen some stuff in our time that just really, that'll make your head spin. But getting back to what we were talking about, so last week on the episode, there was two things that were covered that I feel like I need to revisit, because one thing about the show is, when you're looking for technical information and looking to learn technical data, the data that is being presented should be on point, and it wasn't. There was two specific areas that the data wasn't on point. One being with the SharePoint index, which we're going to cover a little bit about index, the search index, and then also two about storage decline with cloud. What really one of the companies that we mentioned on the show is actually doing the best out of all the providers, and so I just want to correct that, because I just want to make sure that no bad things are being said about any organization. That's not what the show is about. We'd like to be what's the word I'm looking for? Agnostic to all the different technology vendors. Obviously, there's technologies that we like working better than with others based on our own expertise. But it's a fair market. There's the IT. A lot of people don't know about the IT industry. It could be a rough industry to work in, but it's a thriving profession. So it's one thing that's never slowing down. So if you want a job where you're always being demand, as long as you stay up with the current technology, then IT is where you want to be. So with that, enough of my rambling here. Let's go into the slide deck that I prepared for this. I'm just going to basically bring it up. And all right, so basically tonight we're going to talk a little bit about SharePoint technical information. And what we're going to talk about particularly are about something called managing the index. So Eric, in our last show last week, you had asked me some information about really how is the index managed. How is the growth controlled? From something like this growing out of control. So I kind of gave an off-the-cuff answer because I couldn't remember at the time off the top of my head, some of the specifics. But really, what I should have said, it depends, and let me get back to you on this, and we'll talk about it on the show, because I'd rather do that and give the right information than give something that's kind of half-assed. So basically, to manage the index, if what you're doing essentially is you're cleaning it up. So it doesn't happen all the time, but in a SharePoint index, whether it's online in a cloud or on premise, we'll have URLs that remain after content or sites are removed from the system, either through governance policies or through site policies themselves, removing sites after a certain period of time. So sometimes what happens is these sites go away, the documents go away, the libraries go away, and the stuff remains in the search index. And so, once in a while you have to go into the crawl log and actually get into something called the remove the item from the index option. And what this does is it allows you to actually, put in the URL that you want to remove from the index, and then you won't get any more 404s, because that's basically what happens in SharePoint. If something's not there, you get a 404 not found, because everything is URL driven. It's all web URL. So
there's no automated process to prune this particular index, or it's something you have to be very, very careful with?
You have to be very careful with, because if you inadvertently take out the wrong data, then basically when people are doing search, that content has to be recalled again, and there could be a period of time, if it's important data, that somebody, if they don't know the URL to, they can't get access to it. So
Ask a question. You can't do any alerting on it so it can tell you when it's time to be compacted or anything?
no, I mean, it's something that you basically what the alerting system is somebody calling into the help desk saying that they can't access a URL. You know, that's usually how it's done, because you know the one thing, there's no analytics on in terms of the URL, any stagnant URLs that are in the search index. And so the only way you really have to do it is you have the index option, you know, when you got to clean them up, and then you have the option, something called the search result removal feature. And what you could do is you could remove bulk URLs. So if you have a lot of URLs that you have to get rid of, and you have to clean them from the search index, then you can get all your URLs into the removal feature, and then it'll do it in one fell swoop. So that's a way that you would do mass edits, you know, if you had a lot of content that's
Any benefit somebody has a PowerShell for this?
well, it is. It's part. Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff is done through PowerShell. That's really how it's done.
They should, because you got to find a way to manage that just in case.
Right.
Last accessed date timestamp would probably be the best way. Anything older than, say, 12 months or 6 months, whack it.
No, you can't do that, because you may have content that the governance policies are set to be retained for 7 years. You do that, you're going to be giving people 404s, because the content will be there, but the URL for it to be gone will be out in the index. And so what will happen is,
what do you do to the database once it gets too big? What do you move it? You
so
archive it?
that's part of what we're going to get into. So you partition it. So we're going to get into that, but before we do, so the remove item from index option, if you want to remove a single URL, if you have to clean many URLs, then the search result removal feature will allow you to do bulk URL removal. And next we have something called resetting the index. So this could be a really great thing, or this could be an RGE. Do you guys know what an RGE is?
Yeah.
A resume generating event.
Yes.
So this is something that you definitely, anybody watching the show, if anybody ever asks you about resetting the index in SharePoint, and they're seriously asking to do this, then you know that they're out of their mind, they don't know what they're talking about, and it's the wrong thing to do. The only time you're resetting the index is if you're building your recovery environment and you have to recrawl all your content that's in the recovery environment, then you'll reset the index at that point. Once your stuff replicates over, once your databases are in your content databases and or all your other SharePoint databases are brought over, they'll have to be crawled, and so that's when something like that happens. But you know, if you do this, and then basically what must happen is a full crawl of one or more content sources to create the new search index has to get done. So the problem is, while this is happening, so why this is a resume generating event, this can take, you know, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depends on how much content's got to get crawled. But in that time, users will not be able to retrieve search results. So the production environment will be greatly impacted. So this is something that you never want to do in production. Never reset the index unless Microsoft tells you to do it, don't do it. That's what I'll say to that. So, and then, you know,
It's like formatting a C drive.
yeah, basically, it's a lot worse, because now instead of affecting yourself, you're affecting hundreds of thousands of people. You know, it's a bit different. And the scale of it is about 1,000 times bigger, but anyway, users will be able to retrieve search results again when the full crawl is finished and a new search index is actually created. So, at least it will come back. But next,
sorry for cutting you off. What happens if it crashes? You can't restore it?
yeah, you have to go to backup if you're not running replicas. This is the continuity part. This is what we're going to get into right now. So this information really goes with the theme for tonight's show. Yes. Index partition and replicas is how you're scaling out the search architecture so that you could withstand faults within the environment. And so really a lot of the index and the partitions and replica work that gets done is done through a new PowerShell command called the new SP Enterprise Search Index component. It's a commandlet that pretty much allows you to manage both index partitions and index replicas. And so a reason why you might partition the index, if it's growing really big and you want to spread it out over a couple of search servers, you want to deploy some other search front ends, and you want to basically create partitions of the index. and distribute them. That's a way that you could distribute load so that, if one part of it goes down, there's still, and then a replica that's in on another server. And so really what's happening is, each index component in the search topology represents, it's essentially an index replica is really what it does is, and then, you divide the search index into discrete portions called index partitions. This is when you're basically taking it and you're creating partitions in it so that you can distribute it. And then each partition is stored as a set of files. And remember we talked about this, where the files actually reside. And they actually reside on a local disk on a SharePoint server. So unless you're running something hyper-converged or you're running shared storage on a SAN and you're running MPIO to a file server with iSCSI or something like that, then that's really where you want the index to be sitting on, and not just a plain old VMDK file or just a disk on a server. The MDK file has a lot more options for recovery, and there's things you can do and gives you a little more options. But you really want to separate fault domains.
Well, if you put the VMDK on some SSDs and replicate that between your different storage arrays,
right?
That's a good way of backing up. Set the field to like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's definitely 100%. You could definitely do it that way as well.
Sure can.
All right, so to scale the search index, you're basically adding a new index partition. So you're scaling it out. You're basically moving it, part of it to another server to achieve full fault tolerance. The search index, you need to add the index replica to an existing index partition for the SharePoint search topology. So it's got to be associated. So you actually have to connect it, and it has to be associated with one of the primary indexes. And so each index replica contains information, the same information as the primary. So replicas are exact duplicates of the primary. So you're creating replicas again to distribute your partitions and your part of your index into other front ends for search, so that you can distribute it. So if you have a server go down, a NIC go down, a disk go bad, a host go bad underneath it, you have availability, of that search index, so it doesn't go, so people don't lose access to search.
So quick question, something like that, you were probably finding with a load balancer, right? Like that's F5 or something. Yeah, I mean,
definitely, what you would have is your web front ends, and you would have your search topology. There's something called a distributed caching server that you also build out in the topology, and depending on, how you want your on-premise environment rolled out will determine what roles you actually deploy. But definitely you're putting a load balancer in front of the web front ends and the search topology, because in the cloud it's different. With SharePoint Online, that's all the stuff that Microsoft has to worry about. They manage that part of it, the networking and making sure you have connectivity into the content databases. They make sure all the underlying foundation of the platform is managed. When it's on premise, that's really your responsibility. That's where it really falls under. And so you have to do all this manual stuff. But the stuff that you see here, the stuff that we're talking about with index replicas and partition in the cloud, you're not going to do that. That's something that Microsoft would do. You would never do that.
So example. So between, say, I have two on-prem data centers. So I would put a couple of replicas in each one, front end them by a team of load balancers, and let them cross-replicate as needed through the SAN, so that the data is fresh within a few minutes.
Well, here's the thing. So what you're describing is actually called an active-active topology. And in order to have an active-active topology, you have to have less than a millisecond latency round trip between two data centers. So the only way that you could actually,
the same building, but I also have 40 gig of fiber between them as a backbone.
Yeah, I mean the latency. If there's less than a millisecond latency, then you could have a stretch. It's called a stretched farm. You could stretch the farm, and you could have web front ends and database servers, using always-on availability groups with distributed replicas, providing read-only access to content. So really only the main copy is actually taking all the writing. But if you basically do an always-on availability group, you throw something like ScaleArc into that for load balancing and for write distribution and redistribution. Actually, not write distribution, redistribution. Then you could have a really high capacity, well performing farm. But a lot of that kind of technology comes at a cost. A lot of organizations don't have in some cases the kind of money that's involved. I could easily, to run two farms, you're basically running two copies of your data. You're running double the amount of infrastructure and double the amount of networking, double the amount of servers. You're doubling all your requirements, and so
They will probably hyper-converge that, though, right?
even if it's
no, we're not hyperconverged at all. No, it's basically duplicate data centers within the same premise of the building. So, and literally, it's exactly what Pat said. A copy. Everything is 100% fully redundant.
yeah, that's called a hot standby. So,
The hyper-converge.
No, actually, active.
well, it's
I
act-
understand that. I do understand that, but I'm just thinking along the lines because hyper-converge, you got a lot of different options in there now with, where you can go memory to memory with servers and stuff like that, and with the MVE and the PCI bus and stuff like that.
Well,
So I figure with the speed and stuff like that you can kind of generate with a hyper-converge system that might.
Well, the one thing that hyperconverged doesn't really work well with, then we have diverse storage. So
Right, that's true. That's true.
Right, so
That's
we're
where
using a
vSAN
storage.
And that's where vSAN comes in from that.
Yeah, but we're using actually a different storage virtualization product to kind of do that, to obfuscate the entire back end. So it all looks the same to everything, but it's not. So.
But vSAN, like Patrick mentioned before, is agnostic, where you can just take pretty much anything and like, hey, as long as it's storage, and I can see, we can kind of work with you on that. Now that's
but going back to what we were saying about running an active hot standby, the run, you're talking about a lights out failover. That means when the power or fire hits a building, the power goes out, there's an instant failover to the secondary side, and then basically the secondary side comes online. Well, yeah, one side comes active. Hold
on a second. You're assuming that it's a complete split. I have my vCenters stretched, my virtual network stretched across both of them. So
you could do. That's another way. Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely another way you could do it. But what I was thinking about is the actual load balancer sitting between the buildings, distributing traffic to both sides. And so basically, what happens is you're essentially configuring two A records for your web front ends and your search servers. And then basically you have a load balancer that's basically when one side goes down, the other A records kick in, and then basically traffic keeps going right over to the secondary side. Everything's replicated through SQL always on availability groups. If you're replicating the search index and you're bringing that over in an active farm, then guess what? You have lights out failover. But to achieve that, there's many other things involved. But getting back to what this whole thing was about before we got into this very detailed discussion was about index replicas. So let's finish this up. Creating replicas of the indexes and the continuity for that, and then we'll definitely continue with the discussion that we're having. I just want to get through the slides and present. Yeah. So you add an index replica to the search topology to achieve fault tolerance. You place index replicas in separate failure domains and separate servers. So you don't want. You don't want everything put into a single rack on a single host. You want to have redundant redundancy in the disk at the storage layer, the compute layer. You want redundancy. Redundancy is a good thing because that's what gives you resiliency to failure. So with separate servers, and then when you add an index replica, you add new index components to the search topology, and then you associate it. And so with that, now the partition that you want to make a replica of gets associated with, and that's how the index replica is actually brought online. And so you add the new index partition, the search index has to be repartitioned. Once you do that, once you add a new partition, you have to repartition the whole search index. Depending on the size, this could take several hours. So again, this is something that you should do on a weekend during a period of time when there's really nobody accessing the system, where it can be completely offline without any impact to the business. And then adding index partition and repartition the search index should be initiated as a separate process and should not be initiated when you're making other changes to the search topology. So if you're doing any other work with search, anything at all, then you should not be repartitioning the index. And if somebody else tells you they're doing work on a search, the search index, or anything to do with the search topology, then you should definitely not attempt to do a repartition on the topology at that point. And so,
touchy.
Yeah, because the search service application, what it does is it'll pause during the index repartitioning and cannot crawl index content. So you might have people that know sites to URLs and they're adding content, but guess what? There's going to be no URLs for them until the index actually gets crawled. The content sources get crawled, which is the sites and everything else, and then the URLs will get generated. But that'll be some time, and if you do that, you can have a situation where users are unable to be able to run queries while everything's being repartitioned. So that's really good on SharePoint, but we had a very good discussion about that. Now we'll move on to storage, and so we talked about storage, and we mentioned that there was a decline worldwide in storage in between 2016 and 2018. There was a big shift in the market because cloud really started coming really mainstream. There's even still organizations now that are considering making the move, but a lot of secondary systems and third systems were put on cloud storage, and customers had good results. And so some of the stuff that they would normally throw in a shared array or a NAS file or something like that, they're using something like Azure Files or Elastic Block Storage, S3, or external file system. They're using cloud storage, whether it's blobs in Azure or Elastic Block Storage in AWS Cloud. So you're using storage in a way that is different. So right now the market's actually booming from the results that I have today that I'm going to share with you guys. And pretty much the external shared and file technology is definitely in decline. But here's the numbers. So I looked at 5 of the top major storage providers out there in the world. HP, did really well in Q3 17 and the fourth quarter of 17, but then had some declines in first quarter of 18, second quarter of 18, and then the third quarter of 18 they came up a little bit, so it was kind of a little bit of up and down. But Dell, from the third quarter 2017 to the third quarter 2018, they went from doing 2.2 billion to 2.6 billion. I mean, just and all quarters of 2018, they were doing well over $2.5 billion in sales in 3 quarters. That's just astonishing to think that this is just storage now. This is not compute. This is not hyper-converged. This is just storage.
It's part of that new Unity line they put out. That thing is great.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason why I'm mentioning this again, during the last show, off the cuff, when we were talking about the major storage providers, I just said Dell EMC because it was the first name that came to mind because I was actually reading something, and I didn't want to leave the impression that they're actually, there's something bad going on with the company, because it's not. They're actually doing very well. They have a number of new solutions on many different fronts. They have many different types of storage systems, replication technology. There's a lot of stuff that they're doing compared to some of the other vendors. And then HP came in second. They were pretty much the numbers were in the ballpark, in the range. But NetApp, at 700 million, at its lowest point in third quarter of 2017. And then on the high end, 808 million, the third quarter of 2018, and the largest stayed between 700 and 808 for the whole reporting period. And so IBM, they actually have a bunch of new products right now. I was just talking to one of their salespeople this past week. Yeah, they actually called me to see if I'd be interested in buying something for them. I'm like, listen, I'm not on the market for products and services. I'm very sorry, but I'm a solution provider. This is the work that I do. I said, but tell me about your products, because I always like to be fair. I like to give everybody a chance to pitch their product, to pitch their service. At least I do that. I respect them enough because we're all in sales. We're all trying to do business. You gotta act a certain way. So I always give everybody their fair time to do that. But anyway. Getting back to the numbers here, here's the real numbers. So Dell in 1 year made 12.68 billion in storage alone, and then HP was 30% behind at 9.53 billion, which is still very high. NetApp at 3.15 billion, and then basically IBM at 2.25 billion. And then this one kind of hurt me because I never expected to see a number this low for Hitachi, because they're a great company. They make a lot of products and services. So I don't know. I know they've been going through a lot of changes back in 2016, but all I would say is that, you know, I wish them nothing but good success moving forward in the next year. Hopefully they'll be better. But that's really it. So that's on storage. I wanted to cover this. I know some people are probably like, why didn't you show these slides? Because, you know, I like to be accurate. If I call something out on the show, I want to be on point. So I made a mistake and I said something wrong, and I just said it right because, you know, I didn't want to, like I said, set the impression that a company may have been doing not as good as others when it's actually doing the best. So that's why I did this. So with that, anybody has any questions? The live show is on Monday between 7 and 8:30 p.m. If you want to send information, if you want information, send an email to info@bytestv.io, and then, you know, if you want to send live questions during that time frame, I'll check the email every 15 minutes on the show to see if your email comes in. If you come in, I'll call out your name and I'll read your question to the panel. So with that.
Most people understand the importance of first impressions, and we as business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals know we only get one. Has someone ever asked you for a business card and you didn't have one to share? Or have you ever been given a card and lost it? At TechCloud, we have created a solution for these problems. We created a business card that you create and store on your mobile device, making it simple for you to text someone your information while collecting theirs in the process. This card is a complete digital profile connecting your name with your knowledge and experience. The best part about going digital is that everything is connected. You need just one link to share your products, websites, social networks, and blogs. Share your expertise with clients. Make it easy for others to quickly recognize your potential and talents and refer you new clients. The greatest benefit to your new digital business card is you can update and share your card as often as you like, and every card you have sent out previous is automatically updated. Just imagine meeting a potential client at a networking event. When they pass you a paper business card, you can now quickly send them your new TechCloud business card via text, and you will capture their information in your contact center. Inside the contact center, you can add notes and communicate with your contacts. This TechCloud digital business card will make a lasting impression with your clients. Get started today at techcloudvbc.me.
Image is everything. Reputation management delivered at the speed of thought. R-Square Media helps clients be seen or not be seen. Be the only one your customers see on page 1 of Google, Facebook, YouTube, and more. Fake news and bad press can be removed from Google page 1. R-Square Media is certified minority-owned business with the City of New York and winner of the 2017 Minority Business of the Year with MTA and Con Edison. Clients love R-Square Media because we're fun to work with and deliver results at the speed of thought. Visit rsquare.media to schedule a consultation for peace of mind.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. Tonight we have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber. We've been talking about many different things in technology tonight. You know, the theme of the show has been business continuity and disaster recovery, part 1. We've kind of scratched the surface on a couple of things. You know, in many organizations, you know, when disaster recovery and business continuity is being planned, you know, it could be a very challenging and it can get very technical really quick because, most organizations, when they're actually contemplating recovery, they're not thinking about all the ancillary systems. They're thinking about primary systems, and that's it. You need domain controllers, you need DNS, you need DHCP, you need the security systems. They have to come over to control doors, locks, on doors, key card systems. You need, just to name a couple, building management system, that needs to shut down, and if the data center is going offline. There's so many things that has to happen in a series of an event that takes place that takes a data center down, which thankfully they're more rare than not, unless you have a really bad power design. But I've seen really good environments where investments were made to protect power in the data center, and I've seen others where I don't know what they were thinking. So, but that's just the nature of the beast. So, for people watching the show today, Eric and Rob, work for some very reputable companies. I think Eric's in healthcare at this point, and Rob's in also another healthcare company as part of their business. But there's strict regulations. So, the one thing they know about and really becomes really important is what happens with data, the custody of the data. So, when it's getting over to the other side, is it compliant? Is it being encrypted at rest? Is it deduped? Is it being stored on encrypted storage? What compliance standards are in place? And second, encryption in transit. What levels of encryption? Who's got access? All the stuff has to be worked out, because when an outage happens, if you don't have a clear plan for everything, it's just going to be a rolling failure. You're going to have one system after the next not be available and go down. You could have a failure where one system goes down and fails over to the secondary data center, and there's a small blip, or you could have the whole one side go down. And the whole one side goes down, believe me, there's a lot of stuff in process that has to be worked out. There has to be workflows in place to bring systems online, to check, if data that was supposed to be written came over, check if there's any data loss, see if there's any corruption in any of the data. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So before we can get to the recovery stage, so we talked about power systems. They should be separate fault domains. There should be at least 2 power UPS systems in a data center, one for one side of the rack and one for the other side of the rack. You should definitely be using baseboard management controllers to monitor the health and the status of the server, the power, everything that's running in the environment. The cooling, the data center always has to remain at a certain temperature. I think some data centers at 70 degrees, certain is 72. It depends on where you go. I think 70 more or less is a good number. I haven't seen anything colder than that. But all this stuff has to be worked out.
Right.
Data center design is critical to the foundation of everything that runs in that data center. So if the foundation is not set properly, it's going to be painful and expensive to try to correct mistakes down the road. So that's why whenever I'm doing something, I give the option. I'll do 2 designs. I'll do a design with full scale capacity and then just individual capacity, that scales for this particular module or this particular set of servers. So I give 2 architectures, one for scaling out, one for a simple deployment, model that's simple and lower cost up front, for certain components.
That's true. There's a lot of different facets that come into it as well, too. Now you need to know what applications are the most important applications to keep your business up and running.
The critical systems, the tier 1 applications have to be online first. There's going to be service level agreements that are met, that are designed.
Your whole plan has got to. Most of the time, when you do this plan, you got key people, like the key stakeholders in your company. The managers in your company, the CEO in your company, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Got to tell you. Yes.
I want to throw a monkey wrench in this whole thing,
okay?
And this is going to be something to provoke thought. So, business continuity or continuity of operations on the business side versus disaster recovery. The 2 are not mutually agreeing majority of the time, because, like you said, critical systems have to come up. You have people, you're a financial institution, financial systems have to come up. But in a disaster recovery scenario, like Patrick said, the key foundation system has to be brought up before you can do anything else. You can't bring up financial systems without a domain controller, without DNS, without DCP. So this is the arguments I've had when I've had to design a business continuity plan versus a disaster recovery plan, because they're not necessarily yin and yang.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't mesh together, and this is the political fight.
It is. Typically, it gets political.
You also got risk levels and stuff like that, and there's a lot of other things that come into play with this now. Because you're not only talking about business continuity as far as disaster recovery. Now you're talking about the business side too. It has their end level things they need to do.
They have service level agreements in place.
Business operation. So.
Right, but the service level agreement usually is per app.
Yes, it
doesn't come into play.
No.
Play when you do continuity operations or business continuity, because you don't know what kind of disaster you're going to have. If you're in a full disaster, escalates go out the window, because there's a certain order. Like you said, everything has to be brought up in a certain manner. Okay, you're not going to try to drive your car with no tires.
But what's going to happen is your RTO.
That's why you put all of this stuff together and you get it documented. We have a team. We have a team dedicated to this stuff.
I mean, basically, what it all really boils down to is properly selecting your recovery time objective and your recovery point objective. Without those two things clearly defined, guess what? Anything you're thinking about doesn't really apply until you have that worked out. Because that's a design decision.
But that's a DR thing. That's not a BC.
No, it's not only
that's not a cool thing.
That's not only DR. That's continuity too. There's continuity. You have clustering, and you have like I'll give you an example of continuity and disaster recovery. A SQL always on availability group, right? It's a cluster, but it replicates to a DR site where you could fail over and bring that second site online.
I know what you're thinking is with dispatch. You're thinking of BCP on the level of DR. When Eric and I are talking about business continuity as a business as a whole, I know what you're talking about.
What the business will do during this, what it can't do during this. So a good BCP or continuity operations plan works with the DR. So the RTOs and RTOs is set and followed correctly. Let's just say in the initial disaster, you have 6 hours before RTO and RPO come into play, depending on the disaster. Okay, after that, there should be a run book like
exactly.
Team will do.
And a lot of companies don't have that run book.
Right, because they don't have it, does not well developed, or it's unrealistic, and then you get the political aspect of things. But let's say the disaster is that bad. Say you lost, whatever, a pipe burst 2 floors above the data center and it took out the whole thing. You only have one data center. Okay, now you either taking restoration to cloud, restoration to an off-site provider, or doing something, plus getting circuits in, turning stuff up and everything like that. Rush, run, network reconfigurations, making sure it's secure when you restore and all the rest of that stuff. That typically is never covered in a DR/DCP plan.
And I'll tell you why.
Most people don't think about it.
But I'll tell you, most people don't think about it. And the one thing that I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm ever designing 2 data centers, in terms of power systems, networking, capacity, they're going to be exactly the same. So that when there is a failover, guess what? All the networking is there. The bandwidth's there. The racks are there. The VMware clusters are there. All the VMs are replicated with Site Replication Manager.
OSPF and all the rest.
Right. But everything is there so that when something like that happens and you have to hit a playbook, guess what? Everything you have redundant systems on the other side, that you have a process and a playbook that you're systematically working through bringing things online. But things with automation, they'll come on. What's that?
See, if you have a dual data center, your BCP and COOP and DR becomes a little more simplistic because you do an SRM, you do a rate-based replication.
Right.
You're utilizing the enterprise tools.
Right.
Make you a god. Okay?
Exactly.
I'm talking about the schmo that has one data center only, and he put it next to the bathroom, and guess what? The bathroom flooded and took out the data center. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what no forecourt.
The thing is, with a large company, that can't happen. Because you know what, too?
No, right. You're right.
Think about what happens in a large company if you did that. You're subject to fines.
It's an RGE.
Well, you're subject to fines, too.
It's an RGE.
Fines levied against you for that. Because now... There's people whose lives might be dependent on.
It's a resume-generating event, an RGE.
They could have devices that people rely on to live.
Think of it this way.
People rely on to live. So
everything is now connected. Like you say, everything's connected to the cloud, everything's connected to the internet. Okay, think of it this way: in hospitals now, ventilators.
Right.
Things that count as sponging.
Exactly.
All this stuff is now wirelessly or network connected.
Yes,
You're seeing cameras. They're monitoring not only the operation, they're monitoring the tools that are being taken out, making sure the tools are being put back. Everything's being counted now. All this stuff is being monitored and centrally done through servers and different applications. Okay, so now, you say you only have one data center. Your redundancy better be through the roof. Because if you're in a hospital, guess what? Something goes wrong, patient lives are in danger. Change the scale of the game, because technology there is not a tool. Technology is part of the life-saving effort, which is weird. It really is weird, because I never thought that my Windows 10 could be a key to somebody's life.
Yeah,
it's true though. It is.
But it's like when you look at it that way, every industry. I mean, look, medical definitely life-saving, financial, money. You look at banking, money. You look at insurance.
It's a little bit different. Listen, somebody's going to lose money when the bank screws up or the bank goes down or something like that. Someone's going to lose money, someone's going to be penalized, okay? Hopefully no one will jump out the window, okay?
Right.
So it's a different thing, but like I said, the business perception of technology, you know how it is. People don't realize or perceive technology. We're a bunch of so-called nerds, or Google people, or Microsoft people, whatever you want to call it, and no one understands what goes down behind the Wizard of Oz curtain.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing part about it, this is something that we've all had to deal with our whole careers. IT has always been looked officially as a cost center.
Yes,
it's a cost for doing business, but guess what? Without the technology, you're not doing business. It's not happening. You're not emailing. You're not calling. You don't have connection in the cloud. You don't have Office 365. Forget about it. You have no VMware. Without the technology, you're doing nothing. That's it. Your business is dead. You have no business.
That's right.
I remember I was dealing with an outage one time, and this high-up VP came to me. He goes, "I need email up immediately. Email needs to be the first system." I'm like, "Can I restore power first?" And he goes, we got no power? I go, "Where you been?" Dark. Look in there, it's dark.
Yeah.
Like between your ears, it's dark. So, it's like, people don't understand the technology, man. It's not that simple, man.
No, it's very complex.
Very complex.
What killed me the most is that if you do it right, you're a victim of your success, because people don't appreciate the skills like Pat has and Rob has to say, I am thinking of this because you're too dumb to think about it, or you don't know what you're doing. However you nicely want to put it.
It's just people out there too that are just learning technology, that are coming new into the field, and they're coming out of school.
I'm talking about the non-IT people. I'm talking about the board of directors. I'm talking about those people.
Nobody knows
sit in their ivory towers.
Nobody knows what it takes to provide the service today, what it takes to provide a service today to a business, to a company.
That's why you sit down and explain it to them in detail, so this way they can understand. Listen, why are you spending this much money on doing this?
Bro, I've been in meetings.
This happens. You break it down to them little by little,
Rob,
so you understand. Yes.
Some people, there's not enough crayons and Crayola to explain it to them. Sorry. Not enough colors in the rainbow.
That is so true. Sometimes it is a difficult task. I agree. I know that.
I've heard Pat do eloquent technical explanations.
Yes.
I know executives like that. They'll be like this. 5 seconds later, they gloss over it. Like,
what did you just say? Yeah, no, it's true.
They gloss over. Pat's very eloquent. You're eloquent. You're straightforward. Sometimes you just kind of you have to bring the horse to water.
Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just dumb it down.
Yeah, but you only dumb it down for so much, because there's dumb and then there's dumb. Like you bring the horse to water, he won't drink. You slam his head in there a few times. Drink.
No, it's still an odd feeling sometimes when you're in a room full of people and they don't understand what you're saying.
You know what's even worse? You're the smartest person in the room and they're too stupid to realize it.
Yeah, that's.
You just bottom line it too and say, listen, this is the bottom line. We don't do this, right? You tell them we don't do this. It impacts this, and this. And then in the end, it impacts your bonus. You're like, oh,
God, there you go.
Give me everything.
There you go. Oh,
yeah.
My bonus.
But,
my bonus.
But
no stock options. Oh, my stock options.
But
you tell me if this goes down and that doesn't do that, no, give me it all.
Yeah, I mean that's like I said,
my mansions.
You know, some companies are real tech savvy, some of them aren't. You know, all you could do, all I can tell you right now, the only thing you could do is your best. Always try to be on point. If you're going to give information, make sure it's correct. If not, go back, fix it, correct it, like I just did tonight on the show. You know, you got to provide the best level of service you can to your company, to your customers, whatever it is. You have to do the right thing. A lot of people don't do it that way, but I tell you right now, I always try to do the right thing. I'm very ethical in everything I do. I would not do something that's wrong. If somebody tells me you have to implement this design, I'm telling you have to do this, and it's the wrong design, guess what? I'm not doing it. I will not do it. I will never architect a wrong design, and I will never ever implement a wrong design.
Never.
You know, it's funny because, you know, sometimes I talk about you guys with most of my coworkers, my bosses, former bosses, and I remember one time one of my previous supervisors was like, I don't believe this is accurate. I don't believe this is that. I'm like, what would it take to make you believe? Do you want to see an article, stuff like that? I want to hear from the other person's mouth. I'm like, I know a guy. It's going to cost you if I call him. He's an expensive technological whore. Yeah? See, this is the next level of disaster recovery. It's called PDR. Patrick Disaster Recovery. I know a guy.
That is true.
So Eric, you know, thanks for saying that nice thing about me. You know, the way I look at myself, I don't think that I'm some kind of tech guru. All I am is just somebody trying to do a good job. You know, I try to help where I can. If something I don't know about, I read about it. I'll read it 17 times until I know it like the back of my hand. You know?
That's why your head's so big. Yeah. Got lots of stuff in there, too. I'm sorry.
I hate to say, you're looking kind of round, and you know what? You got that ball hair on your chin. I don't know what to think.
Hey,
what, my flavor saver?
You look like my right nut right now.
I'm pretty sure it's very small. He probably looks like a Sharpay.
Oh, God. You know I'm just busting your chops. You know I'm just busting chops.
He started it.
Yeah, no, but Eric, let me tell you, man. I tell you, you know, one of the things I will say, you know, I've been in technology since '95, and you know, I could honestly say that I still feel the same about technology now as I did then. I still have that drive to want to learn more and learn the new stuff and keep going. Like a lot of people my age, they're getting ready to retire. I'm not ready to retire. You know,
You're old enough.
Patrick, back in our day, that was analog. This is now digital.
Everything's digital, man. Everything's going digital.
We were all analog. All we had to do is change switches and...
Oh, Jesus, man. You talking about jumpers and stuff now?
Oh, you remember jumpers on? Remember that we used to have to send jumpers on drives in order to set the SCSI type.
Yeah, SCSI IDs.
Even worse, token ring.
Yeah.
Bad Terminator.
Yeah.
What do in your life?
Yep. And most domino networks back then ran on token ring because they were running an IBM OS2 warp. They were running OS2 warp.
Take you back. Okay, hold on. Banyan Vines, DECnet.
Oh yeah.
Boss, all the financial places ran that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is it's amazing. I'll tell you what's amazing.
Terminate each end to see if it comes back up online.
Let me tell you something that's amazing. Last week I was doing some AWS networking training, and there was this whole section on OSI. OSI was the first architecture model that I ever learned. To this day, I know exactly everything that it does, and I have my acronym to make sure I remember what every layer does.
Network application,
but
applications, baby.
That's the foundation. That's another foundation that a lot of people don't understand. You know,
it's transport.
Forget it. So
Smack him, just smack him.
if I could reach out and smack you, I'd smack you. No, I'm just kidding.
My apologies.
No, it's cool. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, disaster recovery.
That's why he's got a train, man. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Right, Patrick, is physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, applications, right?
No.
Hey, look, you're sweating a little bit, man. You look like you're sweating. You know, that's a lot of remembering.
Application, presentation, session.
Presentation, applications? OSI?
It's application, presentation, session, transport, network. Do you have under the the logical link, like you have logical link control, immediate access control on the data link, and you have the physical.
I always thought it was physical, data link, network,
Session, yeah. Transport, session. That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that is it. Yeah.
I was silo.
Yeah, but you know what? It's, people. I was actually surprised that people actually still out there learning that, which is important.
Hey, that's what, a lot of the premises where routers were produced were like layer 2, layer 3 and stuff like that, switches and stuff. With TCP, think about it, because TCP is on a network level, IP is on the transport level, so, there's a lot of...
Oh, dude, technology has changed. The web model, the cloud model, security models. Dude, it's just, there's so many things to touch now.
So many things to learn, man. So many things.
So
look at vSAN now, where that's going. We can have vSAN.
We're gonna have a whole show on vSAN. We're gonna have a whole show on vSAN. Don't worry about it. I know you guys are itching to talk about it. I get it. Eric's jonesing for it. He wants that talk vSAN. He wants.
I'm jonesing for Azure.
Of course you are.
Azure Stack HCI, everything.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to all those things. But I thought the business continuity discussion and disaster recovery would be a good 2-part series, because we could talk about things that'll give others thinking and get them thinking about some of the stuff. So right away, the power systems in the data center have to be redundant, separate paths, redundant network switches, redundant routers, redundant fabric interconnects for your storage arrays and hyperconverged clusters. Then at the server level, you're running either VMware or Hyper-V with the hypervisor virtual machines. They're running in a cluster. Where you're running things like in VMware, like DRS, distributed resource scheduling, and vMotion, to keep VMs, separated with DRS and
fault tolerance.
Yeah, fault tolerance. I mean, it's such a grand topic to talk about. It's like there's so many, and then right now there's so many different technologies. Like if you sat down and looked at every technology that's out there right now for availability, you would be surprised. There's a lot out there. People are doing all kinds of things. Synchronous solutions, asynchronous solutions. Some are cloud driven, some aren't. Some are data center driven. But that leaving that up as it is.
With cyber threats active across the mobile world, doubt is now a part of doing business. More people are falling prey. Existing solutions do little to help. Difficult to install and configure. They're complicated, costly, and incompatible. Attacks continue to rise, which creates more doubt. It's time for Idura Threat Eliminator. It protects your users, network, and business from a wide variety of mobile cyber threats. Technology agnostic, it needs no integration, which saves you time and money. Deploy enterprise apps just like consumer apps, keeping your users happy, your network secure, and your business protected. Idura. Eliminate doubt.
Image is everything. Reputation management delivered at the speed of thought. R Squared Media helps clients be seen or not be seen. Be the only one your customers see on page 1 of Google, Facebook, YouTube, and more. Have your fake news removed from page 1 of Google. R Squared Media is a certified minority-owned business with the City of New York and winner of the 2017 Minority Business of the Year Award. Clients love R Square Media because we're fun to work with and deliver results at the speed of thought. Visit rsquare.media to schedule a consultation today.
And welcome back, everyone, to the BytesTV show. We're continuing the next segment now. We're going to break into business continuity and disaster recovery. So this is not something that we're going to just approach very lightly. You know, there's a lot of things that come up with disaster recovery and business continuity. There's a lot of technology involved in it, and depending on how much money your organization has to invest into technology will determine what your recoverability will be, what your data loss will be, how much time it will take to recover systems after an outage. You know, will it be a lights out failure where it's a split failover and there's no outage at all, or will it take 15 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, whatever that time frame will be based on the architecture for all your systems. But I have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber. They've had a lot of experience also with business continuity, disaster recovery. So in your time, Eric, tell me about some of the things that you saw in your time with continuity, like places where, you know, they were, don't mention places by name, but things that were done by mistake, or the recovery objective wasn't really understood, and as a result, there was a longer outage that impacted production.
All right, so let me go back. Years and years ago, I worked for a government entity that actually I'll not name. And, you know, great place, redundancies, site, you know, building generator, everything, you know, redundant up the sides of the building, huge backbone, every switch was redundant, everything was redundant down to every possible, you know, thing. But the one thing they never really did was invest in a modern technology backup. So in the rare event that we did have an issue, guess what? We went old school. We went to tape. And it didn't always work. So that was, yes, because the guy that was in charge of backup, like, oh, the tapes are good. We swap tapes out a lot. We retired them. They're good quality. We like top-notch tapes. Never tested anything. Genius. Wile E. Coyote, genius. We were like, okay, go to tape. Tape nowhere.
Tape ain't nowhere to be found. He's like, what's that? What do you mean, what's that?
Yeah, it gets even worse because, you know, you're sending tapes off site, so you recall the tapes. You have to wait for the recall to happen, and then you put them back in to get reread, re-indexed, re-simulated, and then you go looking for the data. Okay, yeah. Oh, I can get this system back from what date? 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's why, you know, I'll tell you right now, one of the reasons why public cloud is really moved a lot of storage. Like AWS, for instance, they have Glacier, and there's 2 versions of it. So you could actually you have tape library, which you basically run an appliance in your data center, and it actually takes backups. Druya software, Druya backup solution actually takes the data and moves it up to Glacier storage. So instead, no longer were you using tapes and libraries of tapes and iron mounting and shipping them off in case you need to recover from tape at any point. Now, with the invention of cloud, everything's cloud recovery. That's how.
Well, to preface that, I think like cloud recovery is awesome because all the product support, it's built in, they have the connectors in place, so it's great. You know, a lot of times they'll compress and dedupe before it gets sent to the cloud, so that when you bring it back down, it's going to come down faster. You're not chewing out much space. But the proper topology or the proper way to do it is you got to keep a little bit local. Okay, spend extra money, get some local disk, keep whatever a month worth of whatever you want to call it, the backups, the VTL, local. Then you ship it off to short-term blob, then long-term blob up in the cloud, and you do that, you're good as gold because that you can recall back whatever you need. And the most important thing is that the stuff that's local will help you have an incredibly fast RTO, and it'll keep the big cats happy. Everybody, you'll look great. Because you don't have to worry about, the tape died. Now you're going to a bunch of disks and you're bringing it back. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, is with Azure, you get Azure Backup Server, so you can just basically set up Azure and back directly right up to the cloud, so you don't even need to you can go right into blob storage without anything, and other than the backup server. You create a recovery vault, and you create your account, your backup server, and you connect it to systems. The only thing though, if you want advanced,
I would suggest keeping a little bit local because it has vents.
Yeah.
So you have that catastrophe. You get
yeah. So you have a percentage. You have a percentage of data to keep locally, so that it's recoverable faster. So if you want to restore a system state and not have to worry about data to come all the way down from the cloud for the whole recovery, of course that's going to take time, depending on your network, your bandwidth, what kind of connection you have going into Azure, or whether you're using Direct Connect, and whether it's dual 10 gig connections, whatever it may be. All that has an impact on the recovery. So you have Data Protection Manager, which is basically Azure on steroids, Azure Backup on steroids. It allows you to back up VMware, it allows you to back up all this other stuff, and it allows you to move it all into blob storage. So it allows you to do that. That may be a good approach, may not be a good approach, depending on your network bandwidth, what your recovery point objective is, what your recovery time objective is, because really that's what everything gets designed around.
These are solutions a lot of times for major corporations and stuff like that. Mid-range and lower, sometimes they may not have this advantage they may be able to back up to the cloud, but they also got to take, storage and stuff, or tapes and stuff off site too, so.
Well, but in this day and age, this is so cheap. You can get yourself a NAS from several reputable companies that have like 10, 12, 24 disks in it. Mismatched SSDs.
You can pop a NAS device like that now.
Yeah, and all the new NAS is tier now, so you can have awesome amount of data there for relatively cheap compared to like a full-blown SAN. And then from there, you have the application, the backup application, ship it up to the cloud. Exactly what Pat said. Yeah,
I mean, now for file servers, you have Azure Files. Yeah. So if Azure Files, you no longer need a file share. You just set up a Windows 2019 server. Basically, connect Azure Files has a client that connects in. It does dedupe compression, and actually uploads to the cloud. Actually, it doesn't do dedupe yet. That's one thing. And when it comes to reducing storage consumption in the cloud, they don't want you doing it. They rather you pump as much storage into the cloud as you possibly can, because it's going to be even more expensive to get it out when you need it.
Yeah, well, this is why the product I use for backup does it before it ships it off.
Right,
So,
that's yeah. So that's basically what you'd have to do, something like that. You would need a solution. Yeah.
Commvault.
That's what I'm using.
Commvault actually has a pretty good system. When I was at Hitachi, Commvault was one of the systems that was integrated with our Snap technology.
Yes.
And they actually had a good, I don't remember what it was because it's been 3 years, but they seem to have a pretty good backup product.
Yeah, media agents.
Bro, it's like an old school Cadillac. That thing is nothing but a big block V8 engine underneath there. It hustles, it throws it down. It's got a lot of stuff, but it's a huge setup. It's not like you take a part of a beam, 20 minutes you can be backing stuff up.
Right. Different policies and agents, and you got PR
tensions,
retentions, water tools, everything, man.
Yeah, if you want like a full framework, Commvault. If you want it quick and dirty but effective, then you got a Veeam. And Veeam, like I said, I deployed that, and it's like, boom, 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 bip, done. 20 minutes later, I'm starting to back stuff up. I can do test restores, no problem. I can do incrementals.
What kind of throughput are you getting?
It depends on what I'm hitting to. So I did it to a nice third-party NAS, and I had 2 gig of throughput coming into it as far as the test environment, and I was getting a few hundred megs per second going into it, and probably about a third to half coming out, because I compressed and dedupe. So on the coming out, rehydrating, decompressing.
Right.
So but it was slick, man. And it was SSD tearing down to SATA. So.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of tiering started with shared storage and SANs, but now even hyperconverged. It's a whole thing now. You front end your cache with NVMe, and then basically you have SSD or SATA SSD at the capacity tier, and then that's how you're setting up your hyperconverged clusters now. So that's really where that comes in.
If you think about it, though, you can even at another place I was at, we basically built a mobile data center, and everything on there was solid state. The only moving parts the entire setup had, the mobile rack and the vehicle, was the fans. Everything else there was no moving parts really. And it was nice because it took the bumps. We could drive and still use the equipment.
Right.
You know, of course, back then, several years ago, it was a little bit more expensive than it is now. And on top of that, you know, NVMe and all these things are much smaller, so you can deploy a lot more of it in a smaller space.
That's correct.
Not to mention, a lot of these SAN vendors have these like shelves, like 3 or 4 U shelves, and you're sticking hard drives in like you're sticking bread in a toaster.
That
you know,
is-
it's like, bing.
Yeah, you know, but
Easy drives.
that's the neat.
Scrap
But
them
see,
right
but
up.
the reason why it is right now, we're in like I don't know if you guys realize this, but in terms of storage, we've consumed in the last 3 years more storage than we did in an entire lifetime since up until 3 years ago.
That's correct.
But dude, everything's the cloud connected, man. Your phone, your
Well, you have-
watch, your car.
Right. Well, you have different kinds of data, and that ties into the whole thing with like people hear the term big data, but that's where it really comes from. You have data from database sources. You have data coming in from unstructured file data. You have structured file data.
Well,
But
think of it this way. The internet's the biggest source of unstructured file data there is, and Google and, you know, big data and AI is all gobbling it up and, you know, doing stuff with it and just
Definitely AI.
duplicating and adding more. Dude, I'm telling you, soon, okay, to be on the internet, you can be like this. You're on the top side of your head and you're on the internet, you know?
And that's the thing
Google
with
and-
AI consumes a lot.
yeah, AI is really
Oh my gosh.
I've seen you both at dinner. You both consume a lot.
no. I can tell you honestly, right now, AI is really at the cutting front edge of technology right now. It's the future of technology, and it's actually when it comes to business continuity and disaster recovery. There'll be AI built into it at some point because that's where everything's going. Everything that's being done today will have something AI, a component, a module, an add-in, a plug-in to everything that we run. That's where it's going to go. So if you know AI, you're going to be busy for the next 20 or 30 years. You know, that's where it's going. Microsoft just released through Power Apps, right? The AI Builder. AI Builder is now incorporated the Power Apps. You can now do, you could do machine learning models. You could do predictive analytics all in your app now on your mobile phone, or you know, either on premise or in the cloud.
Well, dude, you know, with the proper data statistics, all that's going to come to fruition. Like we were talking about earlier with the Synergy chassis. You know, one view's in there. You get everything at a finger touch.
Yes, you can.
You know, so you take that. You know, you're a big corporation. You got like 50, 60, 100 of those chassis. Pull all that data and see who's chewing up the most power, who's chewing up the most CPU memory. Plus, that funnels up to say like, you know, vRealize in VMware or Microsoft Reporting Suite or any of that stuff. All of that, like I said, structured and unstructured data eventually will be chewed up by an AI and it'll give you a recommendation. You know, that or Arnold Schwarzenegger will come out with another Terminator movie and then...
Yeah, but you know, AI is infused into the financial markets right now. AI is being, for you to work for a financial firm right now, they don't hire traders anymore. They hire developers, people that can run algorithms and code and machine learning to run models against data. Because there's no better source for financial data than data that's been in the stock market for the last 20 or 30, 40, 50 years.
Definitely historical.
Historical data is based on for analytics and for machine learning and building models. That's really what that's the kind of data you need.
Trying to get ahead of the trend. So
Yeah. So Rob, your injection of AI into the discussion was actually a really good one. It doesn't. We're not. You know, we got off track a bit about. You know, we're so passionate about what we do, and you know, we're excited about a lot of things we do. So we kind of got off track a bit, but. You hit it like a nerve with me with AI because I'm doing everything I can right now to learn as much as I can about it.
Absolutely, man. You have to. That's exactly.
You gotta be careful. That's gonna assimilate us.
Eric, you already are assimilated on the show. You didn't know that.
It better not be suing me right now. I'm gonna go get it.
Listen, the world would explode from that much ugly. Keep it real.
Oh no! You know what, Rob? Rob, don't take that personal. He may not have had his orange juice this morning.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Did you see my email earlier today? Did you see that email? What did I say? Give me a very, 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 very small glass of orange juice. Make him wait 20 minutes and then give it to him.
His sugar levels might be low.
And then just watch the explosion. The gradual explosion that disinfects the whole building and everybody around them.
Listen, hold on one second. I've been downwind of your explosions, and you should not talk. Okay?
Funny story, all right. This is really not, again, we're getting off topic, but funny story.
Okay.
We're doing a move.
People, that's off topic.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of off topic, but this is funny shit because we were in New York City.
How do you recover from that disaster? I'll tell you right now.
But wait. Who were we working for when we were moving that big-ass printer that weighed 75, 85, 100 pounds? This printer was massive. I don't know, HP, it was the biggest printer that HP ever made.
Okay.
I think it was tremendous.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
This thing was steel.
HP LaserJet 500.
Oh, this thing was, you couldn't even fit it through the doorway. We had to twist it to get it through the doorway. It wouldn't, this how, so we're on the stairs, right? And we're going up, and I'm in front of him, and I let one go. And all of a sudden, he's like, he almost drops the printer. He starts coughing, choking, almost throwing up. I'm like, what's the problem? He goes, you just gassed me.
Let me tell you this. When I was doing field service work, right, we used to carry printers back and forth from a lot of different locations to work on them sometimes. We'd work on them in-house. So sometimes we would take them on the crane. You got to carry them up the steps. This is no lie. So the guy, his name is Gerald. I can mention his name. No last name. He brought the printer. He was carrying it up, well, on a cart. You know those little carts they had back in the day? This is a big LaserJet 1. Pulling it up the stairs. The next thing you know, it falls off and goes down the stairs and breaks into pieces.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it went everywhere, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Wow.
I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you try to take that? There was certain instances where we would call a company to pick that stuff up. He said, no, I'm going to take it myself. And he ruined that thing. Let me tell you something else. One other time, he had a cart again with a printer on it, and he got distracted, and he walked into a fountain on 51st and 6th Avenue. And I'm looking at him. I know he was distracted. He walked into a fountain. And I didn't stop him. I'm like, look at this guy. What is he doing? He walked into a fountain. I'm like, what is he doing?
Oh, my God.
Ain't your middle name Gerald?
Huh?
Ain't your middle name Gerald?
My middle name is Michael.
Hey, that's my middle name, brother.
My name is Picasso.
That's my middle name. My middle name is Michael.
Great.
Huh?
My middle name is Michael.
Yeah, that's my middle name. See?
Yeah, you're a bunch of Mikey likes it.
Great mind.
Great minds.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to get back to the.
Give me AI this and give it to you.
We got to get back to the show now,
It's
guys.
gotta be artificial, because that real thing ain't working.
Yeah. Oh my God, you guys are unbelievable.
Not even hair
Yo,
growth. Ain't nothing.
Man, bro. Man, it's sexy right here. So, man, keep on moving there, man. We know what happened. Alright? Come on, that big old dome of yours. You and Patrick got big old pit bull heads, too.
Wait, hang on a second. You tell me I got a big head.
He was a really, really skinny kid when I first met him. Okay? Jacket, all the rest of stuff. You see him walking down the thing. Huge head. Never mind.
They're making great advancements.
Eric is focused on size tonight for a reason. I guess he's feeling like he has a pathetic fallacy.
Listen. That's why you guys' nickname is Kibble and Bits. Okay? Relax.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, listen, we got guys. This is all great. I love doing this, but we actually have to get back to the show. So we
All right.
So getting back to what we were talking about with looking at data center level architecture design. So one of the things that a data center right from the very beginning, power systems. I ask. One of the first things that I always do whenever I'm doing discovery. Whenever I'm checking out racks and stuff like that and checking out the equipment in the data center, the one thing I'm checking is to make sure that the A and B power is actually going to alternate PDUs and power supplies for power backup systems, and not everything on a single PDU going to a single power system, because then you have one entire fault domain in the rack that's completely not there. You're running with a single fault domain. And a lot of companies don't understand this. So like, what do you mean? We have UPS. I said, you have UPS on one side.
Yeah, exactly.
if you're not running dual connections into dual power connectivity into alternate power generators, guess what? You're going to lose half your rack is down, and then as soon as there's a power outage, you lost everything. Everything's completely down.
That is correct. Most racks now, they do have dual PDUs now.
Right. Enough to basically power down the systems.
Absolutely, you have to now, because with all the power these machines are consuming now, you have to have that. That's like mandatory.
Well, it really becomes important for like applications and data systems that are actually writing data, because the one thing you don't want to happen, you don't want a server to go completely crash when it's in the middle of writing data. With SQL, there's technology built into the platform that'll actually roll back the transaction if it's not ACID. If it's not an ACID transaction, it'll actually roll it back. But with other systems, application servers, web front ends, market, websites, people that are selling products and servers that are writing sales, something goes down like that, customers are affected, they're losing revenue. People can't get access to their products and services.
Guy, like you said, Pat, any good data center guy, it's the heating, it's the cooling, it's the power, the monitoring of the power, all that stuff. Everything's so advanced now. You get, like just racks, dual PDUs. Each PDU has an IP address.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Monitor.
Right. For baseboard management controllers. That's what the baseboard management controller is, so that you can monitor that stuff. Without the baseboard management controller these days, you wouldn't be able to monitor any of that.
It goes right into the PDU and tells you all the statistics that you need for the PDU.
Yeah, I mean,
but that stuff is
on a higher level. If it's getting on a higher level, maybe you need to, rearrange the rack, or maybe you need to, add more power into that rack if you can. Maybe the rack is over,
Well, if you get that statistical information, those alerts, but also, I believe all those vendors now have APIs or to feed information to central locations for monitoring, like HP OneView, or even VMware can now actually talk to some of these devices to shut these things down. If you
to have those
graceful, you do a hard shutdown.
Right.
True.
Right.
They give like a schematic now of how how you should balance out and how much you should put in these racks now. That's very important now.
Well, everything, when you're architecting, there's one thing that I always do, and sometimes customers find it good, sometimes they find it that they don't want to do it. But I always architect with scaling in mind. So if I'm building a rack, if I'm designing, let's say I'm building out, let's say a hyperconverged cluster with 3 or 4 nodes, but I know can scale to 32, and it could do it at literally any time within the next year or so. I'm building the architecture that's going to have basically plug and play. When the first switch goes in, it can support a whole stack of hyperconverged nodes. 16 of them in a rack, 32 of them in a rack, and it's from the very beginning when those first nodes go in, the switch infrastructure gets implemented. It's completely redundant. It supports the latest speed network connectivity. Like some of the stuff that's being done right now is being done in 40 gig and 100 gig. 100 gig is not really mainstream yet. 40 gig seems to be the current standard for Ethernet connectivity.
It's got affordable. So.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Because when you go on 100 gig, you're running expensive copper. You're going to, or you're going to do something.
Straight fiber, man.
Right. I was That's what I was just going to say. Yeah. You don't get the distance, and you get attenuation that you have to deal with. But anyway, going back into data center design.
What you said about the power and disaster.
Yeah, that's right.
About it. That's the base foundation, because
when
you're deploying these hyperconverged systems, you're not deploying for the utilization, power consumption that you need now. You're deploying, or you're
for anticipated usage.
You're designing for the full implementation, full load anticipation. So that's part of redundancy, because, like you said, 2 PDUs may not be enough. You might need 4 diverse PDUs.
Exactly.
So that could be 4 30 amp circuits, or 5 or 6 30 amp circuits, and you have to split the load efficiently.
And the thing is, they offer racks now with different sizing and stuff like that now too, as we know.
Right.
You can get a big high capacity rack, you can get a medium sized capacity rack, or
any rack that you can rack and stack equipment very densely.
Yes.
And then a smaller footprint is really what you want. You want to basically maximize the capacity of the data center floor space. Exactly. So you want to find racks.
Higher end data centers, when they bring the power in, they have these like huge power rods on top, and they put these modules, and they drop you down the whip. So I've seen racks that have 4 or 5 modules on top of it. That's crazy.
Right.
Then you get all that power, and then, like you said, rack's super dense. You're talking about, this rack has like, 2,000 VMs in it, and then the storage is right next to it and all the rest of that stuff. That's crazy. Imagine that 10 years ago.
Yeah, forget it.
2,000 servers. What would that look like?
Oh, forget it.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is my view right now in terms of recovery and secondary data centers. To me, it almost doesn't make sense to have a second data center anymore. I could use Azure Site Recovery and fail over in less than a minute and have my whole infrastructure online and running. If I run in warm standby, if I have the databases replicating, I have my domain controls up there and infrastructure as a service instances, I could fail over to the cloud and not have to run a whole data center, power a whole data center, cool all of it. It's all on Microsoft.
Let me throw something out there for you. What about, Azure's up there, you can do anything on there. What about, you have legacy 2003 servers still, legacy 2008 servers out there with ancient apps, the apps when me and Robert had hair,
Yeah, but those are, when you start getting into, application architectures that are running older stuff, monolithic systems, then you're doing two things. You're refactoring applications. Something that's running on server 2003, you're going to run in your data center until it dies, and hopefully before it dies, you've written a new application to replace that failing application.
Right, but hold on a second. Going back to the conversation of disaster recovery and business continuity, say there's data, legacy, medical data or legacy financial data that you have to keep for compliance reasons. So you lose your data center, you still got to keep it. So for certain things, the cloud...
Yeah, but I'm saying you don't need two. You could have one, but there's no need for a second one anymore, not with the cloud. There's just not a good reason for you to spend 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars setting up, even more, it's probably 100 million, depending on the data center you want to build.
Well, no, not necessarily, because if you have, what I said, density and all the rest of that stuff, drives are bigger, you can store more and less as far as, spindles go. That being said, but to say the cloud, there's no reason for a second data center, I don't wholeheartedly agree, because you got a lot of, the cloud's great. AWS and Azure and, Deutsche McDonald's cloud, that's all great. But what about, Linux apps and other apps and homegrown apps and stuff that is so I/O intensive that you would never run it on the cloud because it's just that crazy.
Actually, you would, and I'll tell you why you would do it. Because there's something called an AWS, it's called an elastic load balancer. In Azure, it's a load balancer. And what you would do is you would run your app running on your Linux instance in an availability group, and basically an availability group. Yeah, it is an availability group. Anyway, you would run it into an availability group with a load balancer in front of it, and then you would have horizontal scaling. And so you would have metrics based on CPU and memory utilization. So you would set that on the elastic load balancer, and then what will happen is if the performance requirements increase and they become really ridiculous, then it'll start scaling out horizontally automatically based on whatever you set as a process.
Right, but then that later on that bill comes in, the executives are like, ah!
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about elastic load balance is that once the workload is actually dropped, it will automatically scale back down, and you won't be running all those instances.
I agree, Patrick. I don't disagree with you, but in my industry, we have some governing bodies and stuff like that.
Right.
That we cannot do cloud-wide. And I agree with you, Eric, but there's certain things that, hey, we have to have a colo site for this specific stuff, and that's the way it is right now. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have somebody like that we utilize for disaster recovery and, replication up there and stuff like that if we need to.
I mean, when you think about this, just think about this. You're running a second data center. You're running two of everything you have, because in your primary data center you need something on the other end. So if you're running a 4-node cluster on one side, you're running a 4-node cluster on the other side. If you're running a SAN array of a certain type, you're running the same type on the other side. That is literally all just sitting there, being a bill, running, and power cooling. You can run.
You can stretch the region rights across both simultaneously. And
Right. You could definitely do that as well. I'm not saying you can't, but I'd rather be in a subscription-based plan, an OPEX model, than a CAPEX model, because the CAPEX model, you're spending millions and millions of dollars up front versus a monthly subscription. You know, I might pay $100,000 a month, whatever it might be, versus that large upfront investment.
You're thinking about like a large business, say like a non-for-profit type business. That model will never work.
No,
you know,
well,
because they need to know what they're going to spend. You know, so it's a different type of thing. So it's like, you know,
companies who during Sandy, their whole building got destroyed. They could not.
I don't want to think about Sandy.
They got
Sandy
flooded,
gives you nightmares.
and they had to utilize a colo site to, you know, set their primary people up to work. You know my point?
All right. I'll give you guys a good example. The 2 data center scenario about how it paid off recently. Where I'm at currently, there was a water pipe that busted about 20 feet from one of my data centers. Okay, 6 inches of water. Okay, the water was maybe half an inch below the tiles in the data center. I was able to shut down the entire data center.
Yeah.
Turn off all the power, do everything, no problem, in preparation to move equipment out. Didn't have to, we pumped everything out,
Right.
But the other data center was up running, no one's none the wiser.
yeah, and
You know what? 3 days later, I turned everything back on, everything replicated back.
that is definitely a scenario where that's definitely a good use case and a good point to make about having that second data center. But depending on how much money you have to invest in an organization, you know, you might be able to have a more controlled spend over time versus something very big that you're trying to recoup over a period of time. So I'd rather have a bill come in. Let's say I need $100,000 in storage, right? But I'm not going to use that capacity. I'm not going to hit $100,000 worth of storage for 5 years. Why do I want to go ahead and buy $100,000 of storage up front and sit on it for 5 years?
No, I know. What you do is you buy a system that has the ability to expand to the capacity you know.
Right, and that's where hyperconverged comes in. You could do that.
2 years.
You can gradually scale hyperconverged. You can gradually scale it. But and probably one of the reasons why they're in decline right now, shared storage, is because it's not so easy to do that with a SAN. With a SAN, you're either replacing it or you're buying a bigger one. And with hyperconverged, you're stacking nodes. Depends.
I've done SAN upgrades where I down a controller, swapped it, put the new controller in, brought it up, let it sync up, down the second one, do the same thing, and start adding new shelves in.
Right.
It's possible. It's got to be done smart and right.
Yeah,
okay, yes, it's not as convenient and clean as, say, a cloud storage solution. But the performance I'm getting, okay, unless you got a couple 10 gig pipes, you're not going to beat, you know, a 40 gig backbone or 80 gig backbone coming out of your storage into your infrastructure. You know, you're not going to beat that.
Right.
You know, so especially you get like an Oracle rack, a quad or 8-way SQL supercluster or anything like that. You know, barring official terms. You know, you got all that. If you're crunching AI type data, you're crunching financial research data, you're not going to do that in the cloud unless you got buku pipe. You know.
No, see, actually, I would be running the models in the cloud. The reason why is because I could run that model. I could run a science instance, a data science instance that has enough capacity to run the model, and I could just run the model for as long as I need to, and then kill the instance, and I'm done. Build my model. Now I haven't invested a dime into compute. I haven't bought a server. I haven't bought a storage array. I haven't bought software.
Deal. You're talking about a real business, not a one-shot deal. You take hospitals, financial institutions.
Constantly.
Yeah, financial institutions. How much? Okay, traders in a financial institution. Dude, the amount of stuff they run. You know, I said
they have to.
12 monitors.
They have to, because if anything's down, they lose money.
The reports, right? But the whole thing about it is, in your one-hit instance scenario, that's fine for one thing. That's not going to be realistic for a real world scenario.
That is true. Our market closes at 4 o'clock here. Other markets are opening, around the world. So now your data is constantly flowing up there like 24 hours.
Eric, but you have to understand something. To get in some of these cloud instances, to actually get the performance that you're getting, we're talking we're talking 70, 80,000 IOPS out of one of these machines, and with GPUs and all the data science software, everything you need to do with AI, it's all built into an instance. And like I said, you could run an instance for as long as you want. You want to just run the model and kill it, you could do that. You could shut it down while you're not using it and you're not getting billed. But the point is, for you,
how often will a financial place now?
Right, to get something to perform on a cloud scale in a data center, something to give you that level of performance, you're running NVMe. You're running NVMe. NVMe Express, Optane, you're running technologies like that in order to get the level of performance that you could actually get out of the cloud.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You got to realize, Eric, think about this. You got a VMware cluster, right? Right? So
tons of them, yeah.
Right, so you have everything is basically pooled. You have storage, you have servers, you have compute, networking, right? But the cloud is exactly that, but just on a much larger scale. There's a control plane, there's...
A person's cloud, like an Azure cloud, it's got to be housed somewhere. It's somewhere in a physical data center.
It's in 52 regions right now in the world.
Somebody's managing it, watching it, boom.
Right, exactly. That's the paid service you want for a smaller company. Yeah, it makes sense. A middle-sized company, that makes sense. If you're like a scientific researcher that doesn't have the backing to do all that technology, yeah, throw it in the cloud. Okay, research your DNA and all the rest of that stuff. You got a financial company that's making billions of years. They're not going to the cloud is the last option.
They could go to the cloud if they did like Azure Stack or some crap like that. So we have a cloud.
Right, but if you think about it,
on-premise and some of this stuff could be copied off-premise with Azure Stack,
right,
like that. So
right, but for the amount of money they're going to be spending for day-to-day operations in a month, will justify the equipment. Because the return on investment will be there. You know what I'm saying? If I do a year Azure Cloud for X bank, and let's just say it's like you said, what, 10 million in 1 year bill. That 10 million will pay for my infrastructure for the next 5 years. Okay, and yeah, it may not be the same 100% IOPS, but it depends how you do it too. I'm not saying it's 100% equates, but not every scenario is different.
Right.
You can give 10 people the same Microsoft book, the same physical hardware, and have them build a domain, you'll get 10 different designs.
Yeah, and the point is, it's going to be a business preference that is made by the organization, and that's why I'm bringing up all these points, because the discussion that we're having right now are discussions that others that are watching the show are going to have at some point with their businesses. And all the points you're bringing up, it's a very healthy discussion. You have your point of view about data center. I have mine about cloud. But as you can see, we've had a very constructive discussion, and we talked about a lot of great things that somebody watching the show now will be able to go have this discussion and know, what are the things that they should be looking for. So
you got to remember, there's governing bodies over these things too. You know what I'm saying? Like with financial places, you got FINRA and stuff like that. Healthcare places, you got HIPAA, so there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of organizations.
Gentlemen, I would never rule out cloud ever. That's why I chose Convo, because it doesn't matter. I got physical, I got virtual. I can take that, convert it for AWS, convert it for Azure, convert it for Joey Beckett Donuts Cloud, and guess what? It'll work. You know what I'm saying? So, listen, if it came down to my butt being online, okay, yeah, I got physical, two physical data centers, a physical DR data center, but guess what? I can still do the cloud.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. And I can recover you anywhere.
But that's just it,
If you were my last hope, Rob, I'd cry.
Well, guys, this has been a really great discussion. We're going to take a break for some commercials right now. But it's been a great discussion so far. I'm really enjoying this. I think this is probably the best show that we did yet. I think people are really going to enjoy. If people that are like us, that are technical, they're gonna just eat this stuff up. They're gonna want to see more of it, because nobody gets together like this and talks. You're watching a webinar or something like that where it's not really interactive. This is a whole show designed to talk about all different kinds of technology. And this week it's business continuity and disaster recovery. We'll do storage, we'll do cloud, we'll do it all. We're going to do it all in this show, everybody. So for everybody watching this show, this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. With Eric and Rob, we're going to be covering many different technologies and platforms and architectures over the next few weeks and months ahead. But with that, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these commercial messages. Thank you.
Gene Lazarovich, Advanced Computer and Network Corporation.
We build, service, support, jet stored data storage systems. We offer the best price performance ratio on the market. We offer a consultative approach to the customers. We try to figure out their pain points, and then we try to offer them the best possible solution. I'm passionate about interacting with my customers, interacting with partners, interacting with suppliers. Whenever I talk to customers, they always challenge me. They always try to push me to give them the best possible solution that we offer. We are small and we are able to react faster to the customer needs. So we don't have a big overhead. So customers can go directly to me. I can solve the problem. If the problem is not solved, then they can go to my support team and they will help them. So we are small, and that helps us to be more reactive to the customer's demands.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. Tonight we have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber. We'll be talking about many different things in technology tonight. You know, the theme of the show has been business continuity and disaster recovery, part one. We've kind of scratched the surface on a couple of things. You know, in many organizations, you know, when disaster recovery and business continuity is being planned, you know, it could be a very challenging and it can get very technical really quick because, you know, most organizations, when they're actually contemplating recovery, they're not thinking about all the ancillary systems. They're thinking about primary systems, and that's it. You need domain controllers, you need DNS, you need DHCP, you need the security systems. They have to come over to control doors, locks, on doors, key card systems. You need, just to name a couple, building management system, you know, that needs to shut down and you know, if the data center is going offline. There's so many things that has to happen in a series of an event that takes place that takes a data center down, which thankfully they're more rare than not, unless you have a really bad power design. But that you know, I've seen really good environments where, you know, investments were made to protect power in the data center, and I've seen others where I don't know what they were thinking. So, but that's just the nature of the beast. So, for people watching the show today, you know, Eric and Rob, you know, work for
With cyber threats active across the mobile world, doubt is now a part of doing business. More people are falling prey. Existing solutions do little to help. Difficult to install and configure. They're complicated, costly, and incompatible. Attacks continue to rise, which creates more doubt. It's time for Idura Threat Eliminator. It protects your users, network and business from a wide variety of mobile cyber threats. Technology agnostic, it needs no integration, which saves you time and money. Deploy enterprise apps just like consumer apps, keeping your users happy, your network secure, and your business protected. iDura. Eliminate doubt.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I have Eric Ruiz and Rob Suber both attending on the panel tonight. We had a lot of great conversations. We were talking about disaster recovery and a lot of the ancillary systems that have to come up online, people that people tend to not plan for whenever they're building their recovery plan. Usually they're focused on an application or a platform or a system and not all the ancillary components like the Active Directory, like DHCP, DNS, all the foundation services that have to be in place so that everything can connect to each other. You know, everything gets an IP address, everything gets a record in DNS. That's how resolution is done. So, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, there's meetings like these can get heated in organizations because you'll have stakeholders that feel that their systems are more important than others that should have a higher priority. And guess what? Everybody has a priority. What impacts the business the most is what comes up first. So bring up the foundation components, bring up your domain controls, your DHP servers, your DNS servers, Active Directory, bring up your VMware clusters, and then start bringing stuff online, but in a controlled order, in order that brings everything back in a defined step process. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4. A whole run book on how to do that. You might have heard us say that a few times tonight. So for you, everybody watching the show, whenever you start talking about business continuity and disaster recovery, one of the first things you should be thinking about, in addition to RPO and RTO, which is your recovery time objective, your recovery point objective, is a concise, complete run book for everything that has to happen during a disaster or a continuity situation. Definitely. Well, guys, I think it's been a great show tonight. I think we covered a lot of information. The show went extended tonight. I'm going to go to editing, and we're going to make sure it's the best it could be. But for the people watching the show, I just want to say that thank you so much for taking the time to watch the show. Stay tuned. There'll be many more episodes like this where we get deep into technology and we talk about all the various technologies. We're going to start getting more specific and cover solutions. We're going to start covering solutions on the show. So 1 week we'll do Azure Stack, 1 week we'll do vSAN, 1 week we'll do Hyperflex, Hyperconverged. We'll do Hyperconverged in general.
1 week we'll do a show about dealing with pain in the neck, like co-workers like Rob. How to deal with difficult people.
Yes.
Rob will be the example.
Yeah, we'll just build them an ejection seat. They're on your nerve, sitting next to you, hit a button, they fly out the window.
Come on, man. Rob at his age. I don't know, man. Rob might not be able to survive that at his age, man. He's up there. Come on, man.
Injection seat automation. That'll be the new application.
In the cloud for you.
Injection seat automation.
Don't break a hip.
Oh my God. All right, guys. Listen, it's been great. I look forward to having you on the show next week. Next week we'll be back at Monday at 7 p.m. So if you want to basically send us some information, you can send us an email at info@bytestv.io. If you have any ideas that you'd like to see on the show, anything you'd like us to cover, technology-wise, by all means send that email, and we'll definitely take that email. We'll announce your name on the show, and then we'll do it, and we'll do an episode on it. So please send that email into info@bytestv.io. So thanks again, everyone. One more time, thank you very much for watching the show. Eric, thank you so much for making time to be on the show. Same thing for you, Rob. I know you guys worked all day too. We do this thing in the evening on our off hours because it's something that is great and we have a lot of fun with. So, but anyway, thank you, and everyone have a good night. Thank you.
TechCloud is a firm located in New York. They provide professional services, managed services, and remote technical support to organizations all over the globe and of all sizes. TechCloud has established key partnerships with many of the biggest well-known technology companies in the world, leading to and providing the highest level of service to its customers. TechCloud can provide professional services for architecture, deployment, development, and migration for any platform, big or small, on-premise or in several of the major public clouds. TechCloud architects and engineers have many years of experience and expertise from working on projects of all sizes for organizations of all sizes. Their resources are also highly certified with many of the industry's most recognized and advanced certifications. TechCloud resources will only provide the right architecture for software, infrastructure, and public cloud solutions. When it comes to managed services and MSP providers, you are not going to find a better MSP than with TechCloud. Then have all types of plans, and they provide all different levels of service for your business. TechCloud has a dedicated network operations center ready to act on a moment's notice to work on and resolve any IT problem that you may have. We provide service and support around the clock. Our Network Operations Center handles all remote technical support, patching, application deployment. We also provide managed virus and malware prevention and around-the-clock monitoring for all your IT systems and clouds that you leverage with your business. TechCloud will also work with you very closely and help you develop and define the managed services plan that's best for you. Contact us today, visit us at techcloud.me. You can email us at info@techcloud.me or call us at 866-985-8197.